Hey, welcome to The Explainer. Today we're diving into this really strange, powerful moment that, every storyteller kind of dreads. It's pulled right from a screenwriting guide, and it's all about this one question. What happens when a character you've created just stops, looks you dead in the eye, and challenges the very story you're trying to write?
Okay, so take a look at this image. It just perfectly captures that whole internal, kind of solitary struggle of a writer, right? This is really the heart of our story today. And you'll see, as we get into it, the meaning of this image is going to shift in a really profound way. It all kicks off with one writer's journey through some serious creative frustration.
All right, section 1, the time of frustration. Before you get to any kind of breakthrough, there's almost always a period of struggle. And for the screenwriter in our story, well, this was a long and challenging chapter. 4 years. We're talking from 2007 all the way to 2010. And during this time, the writer wasn't trying to sell scripts, wasn't trying to get famous. Nope, they were just practicing. Just think about that. 4 entire years dedicated only to learning the craft with absolutely no guarantee of success. And in those 4 years, it wasn't just studying. Oh no, they wrote a lot. 5 complete feature-length screenplays. I mean, that's more than a full movie script every single year. A ton of work. So, after all that effort, all those pages, what was the results? Well, in the writer's own words, every single one was just terrible. A total failure. But here's the thing, right? This is where the story really gets interesting, because sometimes the most powerful lessons, they don't come from your successes. They come from figuring out exactly why you failed. Okay, section 2, a character's sudden question. So the big turning point? It didn't come from some textbook or a boring lecture. It came from a really unexpected voice, one that came directly from the pages of the script itself.
So, picture this. It's just a regular day. The writer is totally in the zone. The words are just flowing. The story's unfolding, the characters are chatting away. They've got that magical momentum that every creative person just lives for. It feels completely effortless.
And then it happens. Right in the middle of a scene, a character just stops. They turn, kind of breaking that fourth wall, and look right at the writer. And they ask this simple but totally devastating question. Is this really right?
And bam, with that one little question, everything just stopped. The whole creative engine seized up. All that momentum, gone in an instant. Which brings us to section 3, the 3 weeks of halt. And yeah, this wasn't just a quick pause to think. That one question, it triggered a complete creative shutdown. For 3 full weeks, nothing. The writer's just sitting there with the script, but the story, it wouldn't budge. The calendar pages keep turning, but that page number, it's stuck.
Seriously, the effect of that one question was just profound. The story was frozen solid, the writer was completely powerless, couldn't add a single word. It's like they were paralyzed by their own creation.
So why? What was the big problem? Well, after all those weeks of being totally stuck, the realization finally hits. And it's both simple and devastating. The writer had no answer for the character. Why? Because they didn't really know who this character was. They were basically just moving a stranger around on the page.
And that brings us to section 4, what the writer must prepare. Because that painful 3-week paralysis, it taught a lesson that would change everything. And it gets to the core of what we're talking about today, the absolute critical need for preparation.
So here's the big lesson, right? A writer's real work, the heavy lifting, it happens before you even type page 1. You've got to know your characters inside and out. What do they want? Who do they love? Who do they hate? You need to have those answers ready, because if you don't, well, your characters will call you on it, and your whole story will grind to a halt.
And that brings us right back to where we started. Remember this image? It feels completely different now, doesn't it? It's not about a writer struggling with a blank page anymore. No, now it's about a writer who is ready to have that crucial conversation with their character because they've actually done the work.
So, for any of you creators listening, the big takeaway is this. Don't just plan your plot. You have to prepare for your characters, because trust me, sooner or later, they are going to turn to you and ask a question, and you had better be ready with an answer.